Welcome back to Yugi-Centric. So as you guys probably saw in the title of the video, this is my first Edison format deck that I've ever built. So I'm going to be doing a deck profile for you guys today. This is definitely a more unique Edison deck. It's not your standard Lightsworn, Diva Hero, Black Wings type of a deck. I got this idea from a friend of mine, kind of put my own spin on it. So I just wanted to show you guys what I came up with. I also plan on taking this to my first Edison tournament at one of my local card shops. So be sure to let me know down in the comments any changes that you would make. Still kind of a newbie to Edison format, so any pointers or tips and tricks, I would definitely appreciate it. But as you guys can see, this is a ritual deck, which I don't believe is very common in Edison format. And right off the bat, you can see we have the main, I guess, boss monster of the deck is our Garlandolf. So we are playing 3 copies of Garlandolf, the King of Destruction. This is a level 7 ritual monster that when summoned basically wipes the board of all monsters and gains attack based off of the amount of monsters that it wipes from the field. Then we are playing 1 copy of Relinquish just to fit in the theme of ritual monsters. And as I said, Garlandolf, a level 7 ritual, relinquished a level 1 ritual monster. So that allows us to play a pretty, in my opinion, pretty broken seeming card in Edison format, which is Preparation of Rites. So we're playing 3 copies of that. This allows you to add a level 7 or lower ritual monster, which would be all the ones that we just showcased, in order to add one of those from your deck to your hand, as well as you can add a ritual spell from your graveyard to your hand. So if you've already ritual summoned, you're essentially able to recycle one from your graveyard, which is pretty good. So next we have the ritual spell for Garlandolf, which is the Ritual of Destruction. And because of the effect of Preparation of Rites that I just mentioned, we're only playing 1 copy of this and 1 copy of the Black Illusion Ritual for the Relinquished, of course, as well as limited to 1 in Edison format, the Advanced Ritual Art. So Advanced Ritual Art, limited to 1 in Edison format, probably for good reason. This card says you can ritual summon any ritual monster, so we can use this for our Relinquished or the Garlandolf by sending a normal monster from your deck to the graveyard whose level equals the level of that ritual monster. So you'll see the normal monsters we are playing in this deck profile later on to fit the exact criteria for that. Real quick, going back, I don't think I mentioned with the Ritual of Destruction that summons the Garlandolf. This card, you can also banish this from your graveyard, and any ritual monster that destroys another monster by battle that turn, it'll place that card on the top of the deck instead of sending it to the graveyard. So that could be pretty decent. And next for our ritual strategy, we're playing 2 copies of Sonic Bird and 3 copies of Manju. Sonic Bird allowing us to search for the spell, any ritual spell that is. Manju, either a ritual monster or spell. And the reason I have Sonic Bird at just 2 copies, I've considered playing 3 of this, but we do have the Preparation of Rites, which allows us to search ritual monsters. I've gone back and forth between 2 to 3 copies of the Sonic Bird. It is also a wind monster, which has some synergy with other parts of the strategy that we're playing. So with 2 copies of Sonic Bird, 3 copies of Manju, and 3 copies of the Preparation of Rites, we have a lot of ways to search for our ritual engine. So next up, we're playing 3 copies of Jin, Releaser of Rituals, which this card, as far as I know, I think is still banned in the current TCG format. That's just to show you how good this card can be. So level 3 Dark Monster, which, as I alluded to with the Sonic Bird, Wind and Dark is kind of synergistic with the way that I'm playing this deck. So Jin allows you to ritual summon a monster by banishing this card from the graveyard as well. This card also has 2000 defense, which is fairly high for Edison format. If we did have to set this and pass or something like that, be decently hard to get over, and then once it's in the graveyard, we can actually use it later on for a ritual summon. Now, if a player ritual summons using this card, the other player cannot special summon while that ritual summon monster is on the field, face up on the field, I should say. So honestly, that's pretty nice being able to lock your opponent out of special summoning, which means they won't be able to synchro summon, which is pretty prevalent in Edison format. All right, and finally getting to some of those normal monsters that I alluded to before. Garlandolf being a level 7, we are playing a Red Eyes package in this deck. So 2 Red Eyes Black Dragon, I think 2 is just enough. We don't really want to see it in the hand as much. Also, forgive me, I only have one of the original artwork Red Eyes Quarter Century Rares, working on getting a second copy, so we're playing 2 different artworks here. They still look pretty good though. And rounding off the rest of that Red Eyes package, we're playing 1 Red Eyes Darkness Metal. This is a pretty classic Edison card, very powerful in this format. I would consider siding this card out, however, because we're not playing too many dragons, but we have other ways to access this card, as I'll showcase in a little bit. And to top that off, 3 of the Red Eyes Wyvern. Pretty solid normal summon, 1800 attack, and as well as allowing us to recycle some of these Red Eyes monsters from the graveyard, a turn that you don't normal summon or set a monster. And on top of that, as I mentioned before, all of these monsters being dark and wind. So once I get to the card that I've been alluding to this whole time, that'll make a little bit more sense. And actually, it's coming up next. So we're playing 3 copies of a card that I just thought looked really cool, and it does actually fit into the strategy of this deck. So we're playing 3 copies of the Dark Simorgh. So Dark Simorgh, while face up on the field, is also a wind attribute. You can banish a dark and a wind monster. So you see where I'm going with this now. From your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. You can also banish 1 dark and 1 wind monster from your hand if this card is in the graveyard to summon it back onto the field, so it has some recursion. It's also 2700 attack, which is fairly large in Edison format. And the main effect that we're trying to pull off with this is basically once this card is on the field, your opponent cannot set any cards. So they can't set monsters in defense to protect their life points. They also can't set spells and traps, which are some of the most powerful cards in Edison format. I think most people will agree. Solemn Judgments, Torrential Tributes, Bottomless Trap Hole, things of that nature are pretty good to be able to lock your opponent out of. And next up, a card that I really don't see anybody play in Edison format, which I'm not really sure why, is Guardian Eatos. So this card is a free special summon from the hand if you have no monsters in your graveyard. So I think this is a great going second and sometimes even going first. It is a level 8, so there's really not much we could like special summon this and then synchro with if we were normal summon a tuner or something like that. But 2500 attack, again, 2000 defense. This is just a great free special summon, basically. You can even, tribute summon a Caius over it. Not that you'd necessarily want to do that turn 1 or anything. And this card does have a second effect dealing with equip spells. We're not playing any in this deck, so we're not really interested in that. But also fitting into the theme of being a wind monster. So next, our normal monster that we're looking to send off of the Advanced Ritual Art for Relinquished is a level 1 Flamvel Guard, which is, number 1, is a dragon, has synergy with our Red Eyes Darkness Metal. It's a tuner, a level 1 tuner, which definitely is helpful for our extra deck. And 2000 defense as well, which is fairly solid if we were in a really tough spot and we had to set this in defense or something like that. And the only other tuner we're playing in the deck is, of course, the Plague Spreader Zombie. Fairly good generic level 2 tuner. I see this in a lot of Edison decks, really. But this card has the effect when it's in the graveyard, you can place 1 card from your hand on the top of your deck. Not great, but special summon this card, and then it gets banished when it leaves the field. Also is a dark monster, not that we really want to banish this for our Simorgh. And since we are playing some normal monsters that are going to get sent to the graveyard, I included this card, Swing of Memories, only playing 1 copy of it. Target a normal monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but destroy it during the end phase. So realistically, I would only use this to, say, bring back a Red Eyes from the graveyard that we sent off of our Advanced Ritual. Maybe just get a little extra damage on the board and go for game, or to bring back that Flamvel Guard, use it for a synchro summon before it gets destroyed during the end phase. And next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Instant Fusion. This card, by paying 1,000 life points, will allow us to bring out some of our level 5 or lower fusion monsters from the extra deck for free. So essentially another free special summon that we can use one of our tuners to synchro summon with, or as you'll see, I'm playing some dragon fusion monsters that we can bring out with this to get the effect of our Red Eyes Darkness Metal to banish, to banish that extra deck monster and special summon itself. And next, just for the spells and traps, mostly just Edison sort of staples we're playing. So we're playing one copy of Brain Control, one copy of Foolish Burial. And for our spell and trap removal, which is probably going to be the most difficult thing for this deck, we do have a lot of ways to wipe monsters with the Garlandolf. So playing one copy of Heavy Storm, one MST, and one Giant Trunade. And I'm only main decking 2 traps. I have a few in the side deck, that is. So one Mirror Force and one Solemn Judgment, probably the 2 strongest traps in Edison format. And real quick, some honorable mentions that I didn't include in my side deck or the main deck, honestly, is DD Warrior Lady could be a good side deck option, just helps you deal with tough to deal with monsters. You could play maybe like another copy of the Ritual of Destruction, because we are playing 3 Garlandolf, but at the same time, my thought process is the preparation of rites allowing us to recycle those. So didn't really want to overstack the deck with that. As well as I mentioned Sonic Bird, we could play another copy of that. And lastly would be Dimensional Prison. I know this is a very popular card in the format, but there are some other cards that I decided to go with over this. So like I said in the beginning, if you think that's incorrect, feel free to let me know in the comments. All right, so moving on to the extra deck now. We are playing one copy of Stardust Dragon, one copy of Black Rose Dragon, one Ally of Justice, one Brionic, one Ancient Fairy Dragon, somewhat of a placeholder. You could probably replace this card. One Goyo Guardian, Exploder Dragon Wing, Thought Ruler Archfiend, one Mistworm, and to round off the Synchro monsters, a Red Dragon Archfiend. So next, going into the fusion monsters, and most of them being the instant fusion targets for us. But firstly, we have a Chimera Tech for machine matchups. We are playing Cyber Dragon in the extra side deck. Spoiler alert. Next, we have a Darkfire Dragon. So this is the one I alluded to earlier. That is a dragon monster that we could potentially use with our Red Eyes Darkness Metal effect. Also a level 4, so that could be good with our level 2 Plague Spreader Zombie to do a level 6 synchro. Then we have a Dragoness, the Wicked Knight. So also a wind monster, which does have some synergy again with the Dark Simorgh, level 3, so it could allow us to do level 5 synchros. And the last 2 are kind of just placeholders. I probably need to get some more staple extra deck Edison cards, but Cybersaurus and Musician King. But having a level 5 definitely isn't bad, allowing us to go into a level 7 synchro with the Plague Spreader, or potentially with the Flamvel Guard, a level 6 synchro. But that's going to wrap up the extra deck. And on to finally the side deck. We are playing one copy of Gores, pretty standard Edison card. Playing an extra copy of the Guardian Eatos. We are main decking 1, but if we're going second, I would potentially side in a second one. Then again, for going second and machine matchups, like I mentioned just before, playing double copies of Cyber Dragon, triple copies of DD Crow, one Book of Moon, double lightning vortex to wipe the board of monsters, 1 compulsory, 1 magic cylinder to kind of like gimmicky just to help close out a game potentially, double bottomless trap hole, and 1 torrential tribute. But that's going to wrap up this deck profile, guys. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you guys have played Edison format. Any pointers are definitely much appreciated. I'm still pretty new to this format. And as always, if you guys made it this far, please consider subscribing, and we will catch you in the next video.